Ardy and Lewis, Marcia Riggs, both had relatives that were murdered under restraint. I'm just wondering about the vulnerability. Do psychiatrists and professionals see the body quite differently in terms of restraint, in terms of a racialised way that we need to change? Because the numbers of black men that have died in the mental health system under restraint, we've got a new legislation coming out. Now, I'm not quite sure you can talk about personally whether you have a micro-perception of why this is taking place and what can we now do to address it?
Well, it's difficult because I guess that sort of asks me to put myself in the shoes of the people that made the decision to restrain whoever that was. But I can probably think that if somebody's different from you, and the more different you are from another person, we know that that can create bias. We know that. That's part of being a human being. So if somebody looks very different to you, acts very, maybe sound different, maybe express their emotions in a different way, or if you're just not used to treating someone, I'm sure that plays a role.
Another first-person question, looking at this journey of vulnerability for consultant psychiatrists working with race. How do you, in a mental health assessment, when you've sectioned somebody under 2 or 3, how do you reflect whether you worked really in a co-production way or it's oppressive, or how have I used my power as a white person? Do you ever go through those reflections in terms of how we can change the system based upon those reflections?
I don't think it's always possible. I wish it were. I don't think it is always possible that you can go through those different stages. Sometimes, I'm just talking about the reality of it. You're an A&E, it's early in the morning, someone is acutely unwell, they're not engaging, you try different, and we have the benefit of having a different professional as part of that assessment. So you've got 2 psychiatrists and then you have the AMP, or the approved mental health professional, in the room with you, and they're usually from a social work background. And a lot of times they will bring in a lot of that, or they will challenge you about, well, actually, if we think about the wider social scope, is this presentation that different? So if they don't agree with the doctors, the section doesn't go ahead. So the system is already geared up for having that different lens, to not just a medical lens.
Another first-person question. I have to think about my race every day because it's kind of given to me. I have to think about being a black male because the Mental Health Act makes it specific. You know, you're a black male 4 times more likely. Yeah. We need cultural competencies. We need this. And actually, my eligibility into the Mental Health Act is defined by. I'm wondering, do you ever think about being white and what that actually is?
I was actually thinking about it before we came here today to talk about race and mental health and what does it mean to be white. Well, I think in a way it's a bit strange because I don't think of myself as white. I can think of myself as South African. I can think of myself because I know I've got Dutch heritage and I've got German heritage and I found out, I didn't know, I've got English heritage. So we did, these 1, 2, 3 gene thing you send off. Yeah. So my sister did it, I didn't do it. So she came back and she said, well, did you know our genes, we've got 40% British and Irish, heritage. And I was like, that's a real shock. Because we thought it was French, but it actually turned out you can trace it back to Devon. It was quite specific. But I can think about myself in terms of a cultural thing. And in South Africa, I'm very much aware of being white. But here, because it's the majority, it's just not something I think about a lot.
I have to think about my race every day. I really want to talk about co-production now. Because I think like what changes assimilation to empowerment is a new type of co-production.
Yeah.
Because we don't believe in co-production, because we believe there's pre-production, there's processes like you talked about that lead to that. I'm just talking about in the mental health system now, us working together. The video is thinking, how can we move to co-production? And what is co-production between you as a white person, as a psychiatrist, but also thinking about, not me as a black man, but the black family, black women we haven't talked about, sexuality you've talked about, class is a massive thing now as well, I suppose. How do you see co-production maybe addressing some of those power changes in mental health in terms of race equality?
So I think first of all you need to acknowledge that this is you're going to have to go into this acknowledging that there might be some biases within yourself that you are either aware of or not. And that you do come to, because the definition of co-production is right from the start, you need to go into this as two equal partners. So you've got to, as much as you can, I think, acknowledge that you're coming into this, and both individuals coming into this with very different experiences, and that you're going to possibly have to listen a lot as well in that relationship to understand exactly, what is shared, how that power is shared, and how it moves forward. That doesn't mean you're silent, and doesn't mean you don't also give your input into it. It's not a complete abdication, which I think some people sort of misunderstand it, but it is coming to it with a very open mind and understanding that there might be a lot that you need to learn or that you need to listen about or get educated about in that relationship about what will be helpful for this individual.
I really want to talk about co-production.